You don't get to rush this.
Find the grid. Right down the middle.
Well, they did it. Joel is dead, and he died in basically the exact same way as he did in the game, being clubbed to death by a tailor-made at the hands of Abby. Believe it or not, I think the most important character in this scene was actually Mel. But before I get into why, let's talk about Joel's death and examine if it was done better than, worse than, or as badly as it was in the game. But before anything, make sure you like and subscribe, in case you never happily stumble onto this channel again and are plunged into a sauceless abyss for the rest of your life. Now, frankly, I don't think it's realistically possible to make Joel's death worse than it was in the game. I won't go into full detail here, but if you want to see my deep dive into the contrived sequence leading to his death in the game, I'll put a card in the top right hand corner here. But was it better? Yeah, it was definitely better. Again, that's a really low bar, but although most of it is pretty similar, it's all been adjusted to be less blatantly contrived. Why is there a horde of infected outside Jackson, Wyoming? Well, the show's introduction of the infected's neural network does a lot of heavy lifting in that regard. Really, it's the vagueness of that mechanic that's doing the heavy lifting, because I don't know why it formed in a pipe, or still why there are so many infected in the middle of Wyoming, but whatever. Abby doesn't find out Joel's name because Tommy looks her directly in the eyes and basically tells her, that's the guy you're looking for. It's much more natural, with Dina calling out to Joel not even knowing that Abby is there yet. Kind of how I suggested they could have done it in my other video. Abby doesn't set off on her own and try to ambush a patrol of an unknown number of armed combatants. Rather, she actually sees the two-person patrol go by and then just kind of falls down a ledge. The horde is going for Jackson because of the neural network breach, so Joel and Abby are definitely being chased by the same horde, instead of the vagueness of the game's version. The big differences, though, are in the personnel that are involved in everything. Joel goes out on patrol with Dina instead of Tommy, which means Tommy didn't see how Joel was killed, which makes his coming vengeance a little less real. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm gonna kind of spoil what generally happens in the game and presumably what will happen in this season, so if you don't want to hear it, go try and find a human female who reaches such levels of gargantuan size off a steady diet of rations in a post-apocalyptic world. HBO must have taken one look at Game Abby and looked at Neil Druckmann and laughed in his face. So I don't love that Tommy and Joel aren't together. I think it makes Tommy more motivated to go after Joel's killers. I get why he wasn't with him. It makes sense he would stay back as basically the leader of Jackson. And the fact that Jackson got devastated by the infected attack is a much better reason for why Maria will presumably tell Tommy he can't go hunting in the next episode, instead of just, nah, lol, stay here. Because Dina is on patrol with Joel, Ellie is on patrol with Jesse, which is for the best. At the very least, it means we didn't get Ellie telling Dina that she's immune in a basement dead weed farm. Definitely better that way. Same goes for the removal of the infamous bigot sandwiches line, which honestly is kind of bittersweet for me. The other character I want to make note of is Eugene, because while the game said Eugene died of a stroke when he was old, the show is clearly setting up that Joel killed him because he found out what Joel did in Salt Lake City. I assume this will be revealed by Tommy at some point, but when it happens, it's going to be really contrived, because that is a secret that, just like what Joel did to the Fireflies, Tommy would take to the grave. Especially now that Joel is dead, to preserve Ellie's memory of him. Now, I don't personally like this route the show is going, because I think the fact that you have to further tear down Joel's character to prop up a new one is evidence that you didn't write the new character well. But I did say in my deep dive video that if that's the goal of the story, then this would be helpful in accomplishing it. Mel's clearly not pregnant, although she was not at all obviously pregnant at the beginning of the game, and the next day she looks like she's 7 months pregnant with an obvious bump. Abby actually talks to Joel in the show. She articulates her hatred rather than just getting right into the torture. That's definitely better. They also changed out one of Joel's lines for a different one.
Why don't you say whatever speech you got rehearsed? Get this over with.
Oh, it's funny. I have waited
No,
so...
just shut the fuck up and do it already.
It's a small change, but I actually like the line in the game better. The new line in the show makes Joel sound more afraid to me. But I said at the beginning that the most important thing in the scene is Mel, and here's why. As Abby is torturing Joel, the camera cuts to Mel sitting down off to the side and sobbing. That wasn't scripted, and it wasn't improvised either, by which I mean Ariella Bearer didn't decide, oh, this would be a good time for me to cry on cue. That was just her genuine reaction to what was going on. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Craig Mazin, the showrunner, said it wasn't anything that Mark Mylod, the director, or I asked her to do. It was just, she was feeling it. It matters more than any kind of grotesque detail. I agree, it does matter. But why? Well, it matters because if the show remains true to the game, the show is going to try and get us to like Abby. And in the game, it did it in such ham-fisted ways as forcing you to play fetch with a dog. It's slightly more subtle than Michael Scott's attempts at manipulation. In the game, Abby is treated by all her friends as though she's a good person, as though she didn't bludgeon a man to death with a 5-iron. Mel is the only one who ever does confront her, but only because Abby hooks up with her baby daddy. She had no lingering issue about the divots.
I'm fixing a divot. Oh. He's fixing a divot!
But how is that going to be possible with this? What Abby did was so horrific, so sadistic, so evil, that even the actress on the set was emotionally overwhelmed by the atrocity. And she saw the makeup team put the prosthetics all over Joel's face. How then can you as a writer expect the audience, who is suspending their disbelief and accepting in their minds that a real character, Abby, just did all of that to another real character that we like, to get past that? Either one of two things will happen with the rest of this season. Either they're going to forsake the game and not try to change the audience's mind about Abby, or it's going to fail. And I think this time around there will be far fewer people defending it, because it's harder to manipulate your audience when they don't take control of the character and can just watch and soak in what happens. Well, I'm sure I'll be back to talk about the show later on, particularly to talk about Joel's decision at the end of the first game and why he was 100% right. But if you want more Last of Us content, check out my deep dive into the game, and subscribe so you don't miss more videos coming up.
Too much sauce!